Presented by Caltech.
Tim Litle is an engineer and entrepreneur responsible for some of the world's most ubiquitous commercial innovations. Over the last four decades, the technologies he has developed and the companies he has founded have transformed direct marketing and shaped how today's globally connected economies operate. Mr. Litle earned a bachelor's degree in 1962 in engineering and applied science from Caltech and continued on to Harvard Business School for an MBA. Shortly thereafter, he founded his first company, Information Services. There, he developed a method to use computers to create group-targeted letters based on information about specific populations. Since then, pre-sort carrier service has been a standard practice for nearly all business mass mailings. In the years that followed, Mr. Litle founded companies that introduced numerous innovations to support consumer and merchant financial transactions around the world, propagating Caltech's culture of innovation. These innovations included billing address verification, identification numbers, and installment billing for credit cards. He is responsible for the 3-digit codes on the back of our credit cards, one of his most visible contributions to our everyday life. Undaunted by the challenges of the internet and our quickly changing world, he sees only opportunity to do better, saying, "With the world increasingly moving towards digital currencies, the challenges, particularly in regards to fraud, are much greater, but so are the possibilities. This remains a fascinating and truly exciting field." We honor Mr. Tim Litle for his imaginative contributions to commerce, including the innovations that make global business more efficient and secure.
I thought back to first arriving at Caltech in the fall of 1958 with no idea of what to expect. Here I was, a Midwesterner who'd never been to California. Most of my understanding of Caltech came from the often referenced May 1955 Time magazine article with Lee Dubridge on the cover. Apparently was true with most of my new classmates, I kept thinking that the admissions office had made some sort of mistake relative to me. But there was no turning back. I, like everyone who's graduated from this place, received a remarkable technical education. Rather than retell that familiar story, however, I thought I'd be a little different and talk about how the Caltech culture of scientific discovery and creative thinking equipped me for my career as a serial entrepreneur. I don't think the entrepreneurial preparedness was a conscious Caltech goal at the time, but it certainly was a byproduct of the Caltech values, culture, and honor system. I'm happy to see that that is now formally supported. Not all people are temperamentally suited to be entrepreneurs, but looking back, I can identify plenty of situations that were relevant to developing the skills I needed for my entrepreneurial endeavors. But they were not all obvious to me at the time, and probably not obvious to anyone else either. I'll talk about one of these situations, my very first week. And I might say a lot of people will recognize the issues that I'm talking about. I vividly remember almost everything about that week 58 years ago because I was so terrified. My first academic experience was a Feynman physics lecture. I actually understood much of what he said, but was overwhelmed with the quantity of material that I recognized I had to remember. The next day, and of course we didn't appreciate it at the time, but the next day a Linus Pauling chemistry lecture in which he commented about something or other, I don't remember what, saying, "I believe and therefore it is generally accepted." I've never heard anyone before or since say something quite like this with such comfortable and genuine authority, except for maybe a politician. Again, a lot of new material to assimilate. In my first chemistry lab, one of my classmates was absolutely outraged by the fact that he actually had to wear shoes to protect him from the spilled chemicals. He was also livid by the fact that flip-flops weren't counted as shoes. He protested by wearing fishing waders and absolutely nothing else to the next lab. Wow, not behavior I could understand. I couldn't keep up with Tom Apostle's first math lecture because it was all new to me. But the subsequent small math class experience with a teaching assistant to discuss the lecture that first week was truly a nightmare. Two kids sitting in the front row were showing off by playing the "I'm smarter than you" routine with each other, and naturally they managed to scare the hell out of me. Worse, it became clear that they succeeded in ratcheting up the level of the TA's instruction, so he zipped past where the lecturer had taken the class and way past me. I was barely able to process the events of that dreadful first week in this brand new world. Almost everything I experienced was uncomfortable, and the cumulative effect was devastating. I was on a path to flunk out by Christmas. Not good. I had to think long and hard as to how I would get through this. First, I had to regroup and figure out how to deal with the math class. I determined that I should prepare myself with plenty of questions and ask them in the next class. And I remember asking a lot of them. This caused three things to happen immediately. The first and hardest was to endure the predictable public scorn of the two front row hotshots. I soldiered on, pretending not to care. The second was to lower the TA's assessment of how fast most of the class could digest what he was saying. And the third was to make it possible for me to actually learn something. Amazingly, most of the class individually thanked me for doing something they were apparently reluctant to do themselves. I had new friends, instant new friends. And instead of feeling like a dope, I felt pretty good. The longer-term result was that both hotshots left by the end of the first year. I'm a little hesitant to say it, but that felt pretty good too. The bad habit of coasting too long on what they already knew caught up with both of them. However, most of the solution to surviving was hard work at a level that was brand new to me. I learned how to put myself in a zone where I could spend many intense, uninterrupted hours of productive endeavor and outwork almost anyone else. Eventually, I even had time left over for fun. This is where I would have added pranks and inter-alley skill games, but in the interest of time, I won't do that. I think about this enlightening week often. I don't remember much of the actual course material, but I do remember that somehow a survivor instinct kicked in. Naturally, the necessity of hard, focused work is important for any academic endeavor, but the Caltech flavor of this is a real advantage to an entrepreneur who often finds himself living by the slogan, "Only the paranoid survive." Interestingly enough, Harvard Business School was also a wonderful learning experience, but it didn't convey the entrepreneurial value to me that Caltech did. From only one entrepreneurial class in the 2 years I was there, Harvard probably now has 50 and has only recently combined technical and business courses into an entrepreneurial curriculum. In summary, clearly the technical education and the small size with great academic resources is what makes Caltech unique. But experiencing the culture where we learned how to think creatively and accomplish principled objectives through intellectual teamwork, hard focus work has been helpful to me for my whole career. I wish to express appreciation to the good friends Joan and I have made through our association with Caltech, some of whom are here today. Our son Tom is here. He ran Litle Company for the 6 years before we sold it and had a lot to do with its success. And our daughter Ginny is also here. She's an oncological cardiothoracic surgeon at the Boston Medical Center doing complicated esophageal operations. And I wish to thank my wife of almost 54 years. Joan is a widely... I recognize that applause is for Joan, not for me. Joan is a widely recognized direct marketer and merchandising entrepreneur in her own right, and I thank her for her incredible support during good times and bad, and for being a valuable business partner and for being a wonderful soulmate. Thank you.